Welcome back to the course. We're still in lesson 2, and in this video we're going to learn how a game loop looks. So let's get right to it. First we're going to delete the console wait, and let's explain how a game structure looks like. So at the start we have the creation. Here we create the window and we create objects that we're going to use in the game. So we would create the player and the enemies and things like that in here. Then the game loop starts. And a game loop is actually just an infinite loop that repeats until the user has decided to close the game. So after the game loop, the cleanup is done. So here, first we created the window, then the actual game is happening, and after the user has decided to stop the game, we clean everything up. So we want to close the window, and we do that by calling window, so that's the name of the object, and then close. We didn't do that before and the window still closed, but this is the right way of doing it. Now let's go to the main game loop. So as I said, it's an infinite loop, and so for a loop we can use a while statement, and we have to add a condition to the loop. So we could do an while true, which is an infinite loop, but then stopping it would be a problem. So we're going to create a variable, a boolean variable. So we do a bool, let's name it play, and set it to true. And let's make it that the game loop runs until the play variable is true. So we can write play is equal to true. So this loop, the game loop, is going to continue to repeat itself as long as the play variable is set to true. And the number of loops the game loop does is called frames per second, and you probably already heard about it. Most games run at 60 frames per second, and we want to make sure that our game is going to run at 60 frames per second, because if it runs at higher frames per second, then it's going to take up more resources, and it's not really required that the game runs at over 60 frames per second, because that's enough for a human to play it smoothly. So what we want to do is, after we create the window, we want to set that it should run at 60 frames per second. And we do that by doing an window, so that's the name of the window, the object, and we do dot set frame rate limit. As you can see, the code completion already has a nice documentation done, and in the brackets we want to set it to 60. So now our game loop is going to repeat 60 times a second. Every game loop consists of 3 parts. The first part is the events part. The second is the logic part, and the last one is the rendering part. So you probably know what I'm going for here. First we check for events. We check if a key has been pressed or the mouse has been moved and things like that. Then in the logic part we do logic based on the events. So if the left key was pressed, here in the logic part we would move the player to the left. And in the rendering part we actually display everything on the screen. Like the one frame the player is at position 0, then we come to the events part, the right key is pressed. In the logic part we move the player to the right by, let's say, 5 pixels, and then in the rendering part we render the player at position 5. So that's how it works. So let's complete the rendering part with the 2 basic functions that we have to draw. At the start of the rendering there is a clear call, So let's do a window.clear, which wipes the whole screen of the window. So everything is wiped that was drawn in the previous frame. Then the actual drawing happens, and at the end we do a window.display, which shows whatever we have drawn here to the screen. Now let's complete the events part of the loop, and we do that by checking for events. But first we have to create the object that handles event, and that is an SF double comma event object, and let's just name it event for the convenience. Now we want to check for all the events that have happened between the last and this frame, and we do that with another while loop. So we do a while, and now we have to go through all the events that have happened. So we do a window dot pool event, and then we put the name of the object that holds all of the events. So we do an event. Now this may look a little complicated, but we're going to go more in depth in the next lesson, where we're going to cover events, and in the lesson 4 we're going to go into rendering. But this is just the basic structure of how a game loop works. It's an infinite loop that goes through events, logic, and rendering. Now we aren't going to do anything more here, because this is the end of lesson 2. Lesson 3 is going to handle all the events. We're going to learn how to use the keyboard and mouse. And this is all for this video. Thanks for listening.